Beers and Banter, episode 51. We have Cat McArthur in the house tonight. Cat is on the Olympic kayaking team going to Tokyo. She's a physio and she's in for a chat. Let's rip in. As always, we're really appreciative of the support from the guys at Gripstar Socks. Gripstar anti-slip socks feature panels that create traction that improves speed, acceleration and stability. Gripstar socks are designed to deliver maximum comfort and flexibility, featuring a breathable mesh design that removes sweat and reduces odours. Perfect for high movement sports, working on your feet or lounging safely at home. Seriously grippy. Kat, welcome to Beers and Banter.
Thank you for having me.
Straight from training this afternoon. What were you up to today?
Yes, the hair's still wet from my shower, but Monday for us at the moment sees a morning paddle at 6:30, and then we have a bit of a break, get in the gym for an hour or so, then have a bit of a longer break through the day, and then we're back on the water at 3:30 this afternoon.
Awesome.
Yep.
What is customary Beers and Banter is we usually have a beverage. On your request, I've gone for the non-alcoholic ginger beer because you are in the middle of training, so I'll grab some of those.
Yeah, it is a school night for me tonight, and unfortunately, even Saturday and Sundays are school nights for me. Thank you.
That's okay. So, what I thought we'd do start with your story. So, born in Singapore.
Yep.
Take us on a bit of a journey. How did you get from Singapore, Melbourne? Now based on the Gold Coast.
Yep. So I guess my dad's job, one of those simple stories. My older brother was born in New Zealand. My older sister was born in Adelaide, and I was born in Singapore. So we're sort of all around the place. And I was just, I spent the first 12 years of my life in Singapore. We grew up there. It was great upbringing. It was quite different to the Aussie lifestyle from what I've heard from my friends.
Yes.
But then I guess my family always had the plan to move back to Australia at some point. They didn't plan on being in Singapore for 18 years in the end. So when I hit year 6, I graduated primary school and I went to boarding school in Melbourne. So
Cool.
The plan was for my family to follow in 6, 12, 18 months' time, but it got to my last year of year 12 before they decided that they wanted to move back to Australia. So I was in Melbourne in boarding school for 6 years, and then Mum and Dad are actually from Adelaide. So the reason we went to Melbourne was because of, I think, just family friend recommendations of boarding schools.
Yep.
And but when I finished high school, I went to uni in Melbourne. I always wanted to do physio, but classic year 12 student, I think when preferences came round, I freaked out and I said, I'll just do science and I'll decide later. And I hated it. And I was doing kayaking as a school sport in Melbourne. And it was just like a once a week jump on the Yarra River kind of sport, and got to the end of it and kind of really enjoyed paddling and wanted to pursue it more. The VIS, so the Victorian Institute of Sport, didn't recognise kayaking as one of their program sports, but Adelaide or South Australian Sports Institute did. And when I decided I hated science, the science degree in Melbourne, I sort of looked at my options, and UniSA was one of the only unis in the country that will let you do physio at a part-time level. And I knew with my kayaking commitments, whether it be training or overseas, wouldn't allow me to do a uni degree full-time, let alone physio.
And you're starting to step up and take that a bit more serious.
I was. So I made my first national team first year out of school in the marathon discipline, because that's what I sort of was doing longer stuff in Melbourne. And I went overseas to like some World Cups and World Champs, had some results as a junior in that level, but knew that if I wanted to make the Olympic team, which was a dream of mine as a swimmer when I was 12, but I knew if I wanted to make the Olympics, I had to make the switch to the sprint discipline. So going from 24 kilometres to 500 metres.
Because there's not a marathon event at the Olympics?
No. So there's, within the sport of kayaking, there's slalom, which is the really cool one where you go down the rapids.
Yep.
There's sprint, there's marathon, there's downwater, like downriver racing. So there's quite a few disciplines, but only slalom and only sprint are in the Olympics.
Right. Okay.
So it's kind of like how there are some swimming events that just aren't classified in the Olympics. So I think there's like I don't know, maybe the 800 or
800 metres.
Yeah, exactly. It's a world championship event or it's a national event, but it's not in the games. So I had to make the switch to sprint. And with that, I decided to move to Adelaide. I got into uni there to do physio part-time, and then I got a scholarship with the South Australian Sports Institute and said to mum and dad, I'm moving to Adelaide, I'm going home, I've got family, friends there. And they said, no worries, off you go. 6 months later, they said, nah, we're going to come with you because we like Adelaide too.
Yeah.
So mum and dad followed me there, and my family followed me there. I was there for about, I think it took me 5 years to do my physio degree at a mix of part-time and full-time levels just with training, because when I started to make my first sprint national teams, as a senior athlete, you spend 3 months overseas a year because for us, kayaking's international season is the European summer.
Yep.
So from May to August are all the main events. And also, I don't know if you've tried paddling in Adelaide in the middle of winter. It's not nice. And so for us to escape.
I really don't understand why many people live in Adelaide, because it's hot as hell in summer and cold in winter.
Beautiful.
No, shout out. We've got lots of listeners in Adelaide, lots of my old work colleagues. Important question, though, for all those Adelaide fans that are listening at home.
Yes.
Port or Crows?
Easy answer. It's definitely the Crows. Definitely the Crows.
And how are they travelling this year?
Well, last week, not the most recent round, but the round before, we beat Melbourne, who went into that game as an undefeated side.
And you broke the streak.
Yeah, so last season, we didn't win until round 14. We finished on 3 wins in 4 rounds. This season, we have already won 4 games.
You're in front.
Yes, so I bought my Adelaide Crows membership the other night. I'm fully on the bandwagon. It's hard to be on the Gold Coast because everyone else talks about footy and they mean NRL.
Yes.
But Crows through and through.
I'm a shocker. I am dyed-in-the-wool NRL, but I'm trying to be more engaged with
Branch
AFL.
out, yeah, lovely.
Yeah, it is. To one of my listeners rightly pointed out the other day how it is much more of a national game. I'm hoping the NRL fixes that, but definitely the AFL is very popular amongst our listeners and obviously nationally.
Yep.
So sorry, I interrupted you. You're travelling 2 to 3 months a year, plus your part-time physio.
Yep. So in Adelaide, but so the national program for kayaking has always been on the Gold Coast. It's always based. So when we do national team camps or we do pre-travel camps, it's always been on the Gold Coast. And so I've been travelling to and from for years. And I guess when at the end of 2017, which was my final year of physio, I was going through the process of not just missing, but I missed out on going to 2016 Rio Games.
Yep.
And I thought for me, I really wanted to give 2020 a crack. Mm-hmm. And what were the best decisions for me to make in order to achieve that? And I know that my physio career was really important to me. And I didn't want to just get a job outside of uni that would let me do all that travel in Adelaide, whether it be interstate or international travel, and have like a half-assed job that wouldn't actually fulfill me that much. Yep. So I thought if I moved to the Gold Coast and I put myself in the national program, I eliminate all the domestic travel and I can train with the best all the time, and I can look for a job up here that will support me and just, have the international travel, but really give 2020 a good crack.
Yep.
And so as soon as I graduated, I came up here, I looked for jobs, I looked for houses and moved in January 2018. And then, it's been continued with the travel and the training just based on the Gold Coast with the culmination of everything, doing 2020 trials, March last year, literally. Our national championships were the Sunday that Scott Morrison said, as of Monday, no more 500 people gatherings, and shit hit the fan. And we got our trials in and we got our call saying, hey, you're on the Olympic team. But 2 days later, hey, the Olympics are postponed.
Oh, brutal.
It was, but it's like a blessing in a disguise because we got our trials done.
Yep.
So, I mean, it was a wild couple of weeks. Like everyone talks about how long March 2020 was. Like it just felt like the longest month.
Yeah.
And it was like, and everyone had their thing, but that was my thing.
So I'm interested to know whether you feel like the extra 12 months has been beneficial, or you right in the window and you've had to put other things on hold. That was the thing I couldn't stop thinking about, is that people prep 4 years
Yeah.
into an event like that, and then some people that's going to be their swan song, and they're out after that.
Yeah.
And they've either missed that or they've put on hold, which meant they've put
Other things on hold. Yeah.
Where are you at with? Was that 12 months been good because it's another 12 months of training in the bank, or was that going to be your swan song and you were really wanted to get it done? And
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think it really would have affected me either way.
Yep.
I guess 12 or 18 months ago, I sort of didn't know if so I'm 28 and I don't know if I was going to continue on after Japan, or if I was going to retire or things like that, or even if I was going to move back to Adelaide. Because when I left in 2018...
That's unlikely.
Okay. So when I left in 2018, I was like, don't worry, guys, I'm coming home. Adelaide is home. And so I was like, I'm just going to make the Olympics and then I'm going to come home. But what the 12 months has done, it's taught me to love and just fall in love with the Gold Coast. And my job. And I guess I hadn't spent an Australian winter at home in 10 years because of all my travel. And last year I spent a winter on the Gold Coast, and boy, it's beautiful. Like
Magic, best time of year.
It's magical here. And I guess it really made me settle myself, and it made me reflect a lot on what I wanted and where I was going and things like that. I don't know if I definitely think 12 months extra of training does make you better. And in my sport, I'm in the 4-person kayak.
Mm-hmm.
And usually if we make the team in March and we were expected 4 months later to compete at the Olympics, the way we get selected is top 6 girls get selected and they make team boats out of that.
So it's top 6 individual boats make team boats.
Exactly. And for us, my K4 is made up of 2 girls from WA and 1 girl from Sydney and me, who knows Queensland or SA anymore.
Yep.
And so for us, this extra 12 months has actually given us more time in the boat.
Yes.
We've been able to train as a K4 for an extra 12 months. I mean, not during the first initial 5 months because COVID made us all separate. But we got back together in October, November last year, and we've had this entire time as a crew to build.
And they've all been based on the coast
We
that
have.
time? Yeah,
so
cool.
Our sport said to us, as of the 1st of November, you are to move to the Gold Coast, just because of all the uncertainties and the volatility of the world, that
Borders.
if we were doing training camps, like the amount of times the borders have closed has been ridiculous, and we'd be stuck on either side. So they said, every member of the Olympic team, you to be on the Gold Coast. Suited me well. But that's given us and our boat to I guess, build and grow physically and mentally as a team. But I think, the extra 12 months has hurt a bit. And I think last year was a tough year. Like, it was meant to be the most exciting year of my life so far.
Yep.
And I had a few tough moments, and I'm such a family person. I'm from Adelaide. I love my family and I love seeing my family often.
Yep.
And I didn't see them for months and months on end. I missed birthdays. That was tough.
I was reading online that you did like Zoom Pilates with the family or something like that. That's pretty cool.
So I did that with my family and I did that with our team. So the members that went back to Perth or went to Sydney, or one of our teammates who's on the Swedish Olympic team, she comes and trains with us every summer.
Yeah, right.
And we missed her. So she jumped in 1 week. So I'm like a physiotherapist and a Pilates instructor. And so I said to the girls, like, I miss you. Can I do something productive? Can we all get on Zoom and on a Sunday night, let's do some Pilates? Or
my sister did a similar thing because she's a Pilates instructor as well, but has travelled all around the world, with different crews.
Yeah.
And I think she was doing that a little bit as well with people across the other side of the planet. She was doing Pilates with them.
It was such a thing. People had to engage somehow, and I guess just people chose their avenues of doing things. And I guess for me it was important because I missed all my family and whatnot, and I missed my training mates, and we usually spend 3 sessions a day with each other, and I hadn't seen them for months. So, pardon me, there was some aspects of last year that I go far out. I think I wish I missed last year, and I would like to erase last year from my memory because there were just some tough times. And I won't lie, like it was crap when the Olympics were postponed. Like I know that there are other things, but when it came to it, I sort of reflected and it was my thing. I had friends who had their wedding cancelled, or friends who had babies and their parents couldn't come and see their grandchild. And so everyone had a COVID thing, and the Olympics were my COVID thing.
Yeah, it was. I think in many aspects, COVID, it's just 2020 just in general was just a shit year.
I'm going to need you to help me open
for
this.
So many. You're right. For so many reasons, and you're right. I don't think anybody's individual story negates anybody else's. So sure, there were people that had way worse years, but I don't think you can discount anybody's bad year because it was just it was just one of those years.
Yeah.
Without getting too negative, we're 53 days until Tokyo. Is this what's the official word from like the Australian Olympic Committee as to what's going on?
It's on. So we get regular communication, and we had our postponed nationals in Adelaide the week before last, and Ian Chesterman, who's the chef de mission of the AOC, came down and spoke to us, and that was actually the same week that the sportscraft opening ceremony kit was announced.
Yep.
And we were told back in almost August or October last year from the IOC, so the International Olympic Committee, that if they were to make a call that the games weren't going to be on, it would be done by March, latest April. If they hadn't made the call then, it's on. It's, without being so cynical, the Olympics is a business.
Yeah.
It is a business through and through, and that's why there isn't marathon kayaking, because there isn't enough time in the schedule, and marathon kayaking is boring and no one will pay to watch it.
Fair enough.
So
it's too hard to get the billboard signage behind
exactly.
marathon kayaking.
And so the Olympics is a business, and I don't know, and don't quote me on the numbers, but I heard something like if Japan don't hold the games, they'll lose $8 billion. But if they do hold the games, they'll only lose $5 billion. So there's that side of things, and so there's no spectators. They made that call in March. There's no international spectators. Japanese spectators are going to be made next month in June. Mm-hmm. The call on that, But we've been receiving communication about restrictions on the village. We're not allowed to come in for X amount of days until our competition, and we have 48 hours to basically get out of the village once we're finished.
Okay.
So there'll never be a full capacity, and the food hall will be individual packaged food. It will be you're in there for 15 minutes and then you're out. Like, it's going to be a completely different experience.
Yes. So it won't be that village party after your event.
It won't be the late night Macca's run that's, endless amounts of fries and hash browns at the food court for free. It won't be anything like that. Or they may just be individually packaged.
Yeah, right.
With hand sanitizer and face masks.
Okay, so we're 53 days out.
Yeah.
Going ahead.
Yeah.
It's happening. Where are you at? What part of your training cycle are you in now? Is it still full steam?
It's probably the biggest steam at the moment. We've just come out of a 6-week strength block, and that's what's changed for us too. We had they brought in a brand new head K4 women's coach for us. So Danish guy who'd been working in the UK under their kayak system, came in as our coach in November, was coaching over Zoom until he could get into Australia in January. And so he's been on board for the last 6 months. And it's been a big shake-up in a program, but it's been great. And he had us on a 6-week strength block that we just come out of, which was 6 gym sessions a week, which I've never done before in my life. I've always been just a 3 kind of a week person. And so we've done that. And now we're going into this endurance block before then just really hitting the race pace stuff. So, I think about where we're at our training, and it's like we're in the hardest part. Like, we are in the deepest hole of fatigue.
Heaviest load.
Yeah, because we got to start freshening up soon, but we have to make the most of every session at the moment because this is it before we start to really fine tune. Like, we're doing the grind.
So when you're doing these endurance paddles, is that in the K4 boat or all in the individual boats at the moment?
No, so how we do, I'm the priority boat or the race event that we're doing is the K4, but at the moment with endurance stuff, it's that's all done in the K1.
Okay.
And we only do 2 to 3 maximum sessions a week in the K4 at the moment, because you want to look at it, the K4 is done pure quality. So when you're in that big boat, you are doing what you want to do on race day. You want to do high speed starts. You want to do, long race pace stuff.
Mm-hmm.
All the slow technical aspects are done in your K1. So we're doing a majority of our kilometres at the moment in the single, and then we jump all together in the K4.
So that's training-wise. Food-wise, is that something that they lay out for you, or you handle that all yourself?
Yeah, and I mean, that was the biggest thing last block when we went to the strength training, because it was like you need to almost overeat because we are trying to build as much muscle in you as we can in 6 weeks without overdoing it, obviously.
Yeah.
And then, for me, I found I got massive increases in my strength numbers and things like that. And then the biggest thing now swapping is, going from 60 kilometers a week in the boat to 120 is I don't want to lose all that muscle that I spent so long getting. So we have nutrition on board. We have our gym coaches and physiologists all recommending certain foods and, safe supplements and stuff like that, protein powders and things like that they can recommend to help with those things. But yeah, fueling's a big aspect of it. And the timing of fueling is the biggest thing I've learned as an athlete. Is
it hard? I'm guessing you haven't had a chance to compete internationally in that K4 boat.
Nope, never.
We had Rhodesy on last year.
Yep.
Last year, a little while ago, and he talked about how they were racing in Europe right before Athens.
So we'd usually go to a bunch of World Cups through May, June period that we can, test different race profiles or different aspects of our race against others in the world. And I had, we actually did a bit of an athlete swap. Well, not swap, but we went and viewed the sprint cycling team in the velodrome up the Anamias Velodrome up in Brisbane on Friday night, which was so cool. So we went and watched Matt Glazier, Annette and Nathan, who were members of the Olympic sprint cycling team on the velodrome, which was so cool. And we were talking about rankings and how, I guess in their sport, they're in a velodrome and they can isolate certain variables and say, I did a 12.3 250. I did a 12.3 lap, or I did this speed, or I did this time kind of thing. But in our sport, there's actually no such thing as a world record in our sport. They call it world's best.
Okay.
Because we can paddle in a tailwind. We can paddle in 30-degree water versus 20-degree water. There are so many outdoor environmental elements that make it's not like swimming where you can just have a world record time. And so they asked us, where are you ranked in the world? And we're like, I have no idea, because, we raced in Adelaide last week and it was a raging headwind and we all did times that were 15, 20 seconds slower than we should.
Yeah.
And if the Hungarians or the Germans or the Brits looked at our times from our nationals, which we look at their times for their nationals, they would have been like, well, Australia
got them covered.
Yeah, got them covered.
That's good. We're going to sneak up on them.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really hard to not have international competition and not know where you're at and not.
Does that affect, would that normally dictate who races who in the early heats, or is it all out of drawn out of a hat? Or
yeah, so you'll be, the way they work is just you'll have rounds of heats and then the winners of that will go into a semi and then the winners of that go to the final. It's not necessarily too much of a problem because they take the top 3 or 4 boats, so it doesn't matter too much on the initial stage, the staging of the racing, but it's just more that you're going to get to the games and every race has to be like it's the A final.
Yep.
Because you just don't know who you're up against, and you can't take the risk that you can maybe go a bit easier in the heat and save it for the final. You just have to put it out there every time.
All on the line every time.
Every time.
Before we get into the final 3 questions that I ask everyone, I just want to ask you, what tip do you have for youngsters that are maybe good at their sport, but they want to be great at their sport?
You've got to find little, you've got to find special parts of the sport that you got to find your strengths. And so if you're a swimmer and you enjoy a certain stroke, as a young kid, don't try and necessarily just try everything. Work hard on the stuff that you're good at, and that will give you the pleasure and the experience of more high performance sport, or you've got to challenge yourself or set goals. Setting goals is a really good one.
Yep.
And it can be corny or whatever. You write them down, put them in a journal, put them in your room, start small and tick them off and be proud of yourself, even if it's a tiny goal. Be proud of yourself when you do achieve them, and get support. Like, get support around you from your parents or your friends, because it's so much easier when you're in that deep hole of, training or whatever, or you're missing out on things. It's so much easier when you have support from anywhere.
Good people around you.
Good people around you.
That's good life advice in general.
Yeah,
to be honest,
exactly.
What we'll do, we'll go into the final 3 questions.
Yep.
All of our special guests get these, so
Yep.
I'm interested to hear yours.
You won't like one of them, I don't think.
That's okay. Favorite place in the world for a beer/beverage?
I don't know if you've ever experienced an Adelaide sunset in the peak of summer when it's like 8:30 at night, daylight savings, the sun is setting over the no surf, yes, that is Adelaide beaches, but Glenelg Beach with a few friends, fish and chips. And
There you
some,
go. That's a
yeah.
first.
Yep. Put it on the map. Adelaide's on the map.
I used to go to Adelaide for work a bit, so that's all right. Probably a bit of travel in my future, so I'll have to go for a beer at Glenelg.
Yep.
Favorite athlete of all time?
Would have to be Anna Mears.
Cyclist?
Cyclist. Yep. She's humble. She's achieved so much, and you'll still chat to her and she'll get excited or she'll cry over some of her achievements. Like, it still feels fresh for her, and I think grounding herself amongst all the achievements she's had is quite an impressive feat for anyone.
One of our greats, really. Like one of our greatest Olympians.
Yep, totally. And still is.
And a Queenslander.
Yeah, but she lived in Adelaide for like 5-10 years.
That's the key. That must be the key.
It's the combination of Queensland and SA.
Righto, final one. Any 4 people from history over for a barbecue and some beers. Who's coming and what are you cooking?
Well, Jamie Oliver's coming and I'm not cooking.
Fair enough. I'll give you that.
Jacinda Ardern, the New Zealand Prime Minister, just read her book. Incredible woman.
Yep.
Zac Efron, because I grew up in the time of High School Musical and just...
Zac's almost a local now.
Again, yep, perfect. And then it would have to be my mum. My mum and I, like, one of the things we do together is we do dinner parties. So
very cool.
I couldn't have one of those with, those people without her.
That's a pretty good combo. Not too hard to get together, I wouldn't think.
No, all still kicking.
Yeah. That's
some local.
That's important. Zac's basically, he's
could get mum up easy. Jacinda, the New Zealand borders are open.
She could promote some, trans-Tasman
definitely.
travel.
It's just the chef we're worried
Jamie. about. Couldn't be that hard to get a Brit to come out to Australia, surely.
No, he's been here before.
Hey, I've got something for you. I've got a Beers and Banter snapback.
Ooh.
And your choice of our great supporters,
Amazing.
Gripstar. Once
Very
you've run in a
helpful.
set of Gripstars, you won't go back.
Yep, lovely.
Where can our listeners find you?
Physically?
No. Where can they follow your
I
trip?
guess I'm on Instagram, so Cat McArthur 3892 on Instagram. My friends give me so much crap about that because I've got too many numbers on it. And I mean, the Oz Olympic team, get around that in the next couple of months. We're not going to have any supporters over there, so anything online is really, really valued for us. And yeah.
Well, all the best. We look forward to following your progress and hope for some Olympic glory over there. Our listeners, you know where to find us. Leave a comment below, like, follow, share, subscribe, tell your grandma about us. And we'll be back soon. Cheers.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thanks for coming in.